Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing another mixer draft of the Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, and War of the Spark format. So without further ado, see what's in our pack and pick something good. So I think probably the best card in the pack is honestly Crackling Drake, but it's incredibly difficult to cast. You have to be a dedicated blue-red deck to do this or have a boatload of mana fixing. So I don't think this is a particularly high pick in the mixer draft format. When you're mixing all three of these sets together with so many multicolored cards in the set, you want to have cards that are somewhat easy to cast, only like 2 colored mana as a restriction, like Deadly Visit, because often you're going to play 3 colors in your deck at least. Sometimes you can even go for 5 color decks. So honestly, I'm just going to take Deadly Visit here because the mana cost is much easier than Crackling Drake, and it's also quite an excellent card. 5 mana to destroy a creature and set up your next couple draws with that Surveil too, and a really easy follow-up to that. Price of Fame here, stick to mono black for now. Get a 4 mana instant to destroy a creature and Surveil 2. If you're targeting a legendary creature, this only costs 2 mana, so this is just the much better version of Deadly Visit. It costs 1 less black mana and it's instant speed, and sometimes it costs 3 less mana total. So Price of Fame, excellent removal spell, an easy pickup here. And yeah, we're going to run with that. If that weren't here, Watcher in the Mist is an excellent blue card. 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer that surveils 2. And honestly, if that wasn't in here, I might consider the Guild Gate. I think that any pack where there isn't like a great card, you should probably just pick up a Guild Gate because mana fixing is very nice in this format, leaving you open to splashing other colors or potentially even playing a 5-color deck. Especially just as the packs progress, the cards get more and more powerful. I think Ravnica Allegiance is a little bit more powerful than Guilds, and then War of the Spark is just an explosively powerful set with a lot of bombs, so having a lot of good mana fixing is excellent in this format. That being said, if we're just going to get a bunch of great mono black removal and stay open so far, I'll just keep with it with a deadweight here. Plague Crafter is an option as well. I don't know which is actually better in a vacuum, but I'm going to stick with deadweight since we do get to choose what we target. Plague Crafter, you could kill a better creature with it if your opponent only has 1 creature out and it's like a 4/4 and then you play Plague Crafter. They will have to sacrifice that 4/4, but the fact that deadweight gets to target is pretty big to me, so I'm going to stick to that, but maybe it's Plague Crafter here, but I think it's definitely one of the good black cards. Outside of these, we do have that Guild Gate. I would absolutely slam that down next, and then if the Guild Gate were gone, I'd start to consider maybe like Direct Current. A little bit of a slow removal spell in red, only 2 damage for 3 mana, but because it has Jumpstart, you get to cast it twice, so if your opponent is playing small enough stuff, it will be pretty good there. So what do we have now? Goblin Banneret's pretty good in aggressive decks. We could be going for that for Rakdos. Luminous Bonds, another great removal spell. Just have a bunch of defensive controlling Orzhov cards. Orzhov, the white-black guild, will show up in pack 2, as will Rakdos, the red-black aggressive guild. So those would be options to set us up for the next pack. We could also take Dimir Guildgate. I think those 3 would be the highest picks for me personally by quite a bit. Honestly, probably Luminous Bonds or Dimir Guildgate here. With 3 black cards already, we're already pretty cemented into 1 color being a heavy color for us. So I don't know how much I'm feeling staying open for the 5-color thing here and just slamming down a Guildgate. I think I'm going to slam a Luminous Bonds here and potentially move into Orzhov. Although now we just see a great Golgari removal spell, status and statue. Mainly statue here, 4 mana to destroy a creature for creature, artifact, or enchantment at instant speed. So nice removal spell there. Very splashable, because even if you don't hit your green source, you can still cast status at the very least, give something death touch. So I'm going to scoop that up. Rhizome Lurcher's great in a deck with a lot of creatures, but we don't have a single creature yet. We're looking very controlling here, so I don't know how well Rhizome Lurcher's going to work for us. And a Whisper Agent is castable off of exclusively black mana. Night Veil Sprite is a great blue card, setting up your jaws as you attack with it with evasion. These are great cards. Dimir Guildgate's good mana fixing. Yeah, it could be Lurcher just because we do have a Golgari card here, but we would need to start drafting a more standard deck with a lot of creatures in it. But I'm feeling Whisper Agent or Dimir Guildgate here. And I kind of like Whisper Agent, sticking very heavily into black here over anything else. And now we can just scoop up a Burglar Rat for that reason. This card isn't excellent. It's just fine. 2 mana for a 1/1. It makes your opponent discard a card when you play it. So it trades 1 for 1 the second it hits the board. So even if the only thing that it does when it's on the board is get a chump block in, you're still getting a little bit of value there. Because your 1 Burglar Rat made them discard 1 card from their hand. So not the worst. Just not all that exciting, and nothing else in this pack is that good. Enhanced Surveillance is fun to play around with, but that's going to be impossible to use in the Mixer Draft format. This would work if you had 3 packs of Guilds of Ravnica, because Surveil is Demir's mechanic in the set, but we only have 1 pack to pick up all the Surveil we can. Alright, well, Golgari Guildgate here with Status Statue. That's going to be a high pick to me. Dimir Informant's just a pretty great card, period. Just a real nice blocker that sets up your draws. Muse Drake's pretty great too. Nice little 1/3 flyer that draws a card, but I'm gonna go with the Guildgate here. I have been passing up on Guildgates a lot. I want to pick at least some up at some point. And I'm actually not that excited about Molder Hulk. I think this card's a lot less exciting than it looks. It's just a 6/6. By the time you have the mana to cast this, you don't need a land from your grave. So it's just a really expensive 6/6 that doesn't have trample or any evasion of any forms. There's just a lot of common creatures you can get that'll function the same way. So I'm just going to pass up on that. Take an Iron Shell Beetle or a Generous Stray here. And I'll go with the Generous Stray. I do like cards that draw a card when I play them. So 3 mana, 1/2, draw a card, get a chump block with it, whatever. It's paid for itself by just giving you the next card in your deck. Alright, Severed Strands is not terrible for our deck. We already have 2 expendable creatures, Burglar Rat and Generous Stray. Are both very mediocre once they hit the board, but they get value when they enter. So those are good creatures to have left around to sacrifice to the Severed Strands. So that seems fine to me, although we do have a lot of better removal already, so we could also just take a mediocre filler 5-drop Crawl Forgers. Yeah, a bunch of kind of filler in that pack. I already said my piece on the Molder card thing. Alright, I think I do still want to stick heavier into black than anything else, so I'll take the Veiled Shade here. It's not great, being only a 2/2 for 3, but when you're flooding out, the fact that this can block well later is good. You know, you're flooding out, you just have a bunch of extra mana, all of a sudden now it's a 5/5 or 4/4 on blocks or attacks. Dimir Locket is an option here. Ceratok is very filler, but we have very few creatures so far, so we do need some filler stuff. I don't know, I'm going to take the Locket over it, even still. Mephitic Vapors is such like a sideboard card. I don't really want to take it in best of one. Sometimes that card works super well, but sometimes it just really doesn't do anything. Alright, last pick, not last pick, but really late Rhizome Lurcher. I do think this card is quite good. We're going to need some more creatures for it, but that card comes out as a very large creature late game. Ooh, alright, well an excellent Wrath effect here. Cry of the Carnarium, just the bigger Mephitic Vapors. -2/-2 to all creatures, and exile them if they died this turn. So Cry of the Carnarium, really great controlling card there. I'll take it here. We're looking to be a controlling deck. We have a lot of removal in here. So Cry seems super fine to me. We could even try to do a Clear the Mind sort of strategy. If we see some Clear the Mind decks are decks that are going to run a ton of removal, some Wrath effects like Cry, and then Clear the Mind. Clear the Mind lets you shuffle your graveyard back into your library and draw a card. So you try to just loop through your whole deck of removal multiple times until your opponent mills themselves out. So that I understand that is not going to be a popular strategy to hear about, but it is a strategy you can try to do. So Consecrate Consume seems fine. I am interested in moving into white with our Luminous Bonds here. Maybe going white-black over white-green. Ilgon Inheritance is fine. Sit there draining your opponent. Blade Juggler is a great deal, especially if you're on the aggressive. We're not that aggressive here, so I don't think we can make great use of Blade Juggler, but I do think it's possibly the best card here. I do like the backup on Consecrate Consume of just like 2 mana, just draw a card, whatever, get it out of the way. I'll just take Consecrate Consume here. For white-black. Alright, now we have Revival or Revenge for white-black. Double your life total, halve your opponent's life total, or return a creature with mana value 3 or less from your grave to the battlefield. Actually doesn't seem that great, to be honest, because it doesn't like win the game single-handedly. You need to be using this and having a bunch of other ways to damage your opponent after you've halved their life. or you need a bunch of mana value 3 or less creatures, neither of which I have a ton of. I guess I have a good amount of mana value 3 or less creatures. Seems like okay, but honestly, like Grotesque Demise might just be better. 3 mana exile a creature with power 3 or less. I think I am going to roll with Grotesque Demise here. Okay. So now we do see another Blade Juggler, and this time there's not much to compete with it, so I think I'll take it here. We do need to pick up some more 1/2 mana creatures as the draft progresses to make sure we can actually activate that. Alright, another Blade Juggler, although an Azorius Guildgate could be good in our deck if we end up in white, black, and blue. But we don't have any blue cards yet, so that would be a bit speculative, whereas Blade Juggler is definitely going to be great. Alright, Orzhov Guildgate will be excellent. There are other good cards here, like Noxious Grudian, Little Death Toucher, Sphinx's Insight, draw a couple cards, gain some life. Chillbringer would be good moving into blue, but just take that good mana fixing when we've got it. Good on-color mana fixing. So it looks like another 3-color deck here, most likely white, black, green. Probably not hopping onto the 5-color train here, because we have just plenty of excellent cards in just our 3 colors, and we get another Orzhov Guildgate here. Oh, this is actually a difficult choice for me, because we have so few creatures early game, I might have to just slam down an Orzhov Enforcer. As much as I want to take this Guildgates, I think that's correct. We need more early game creatures, especially with double Blade Juggler. We need to make sure we're trying to trigger that Spectacle by turn 3 to make these really good. So, grab an Orzhov Enforcer here. So, pick 8. This is the last chance to see a copy of Clear the Mind and try to go into blue for that. So, I don't think we're going Clear the Mind today either. Even though we do have the support in terms of a Wrath effect and a ton of good removal to attempt that, we do not have the Clear the Mind. Alright, so... Oh wow, yeah, and this pack is just not good for us pretty much at all. We could take a filler 4/4 for later in the game, or an Orzhov Locket, which is also kind of filler, but the fact that these, you can cash them in later in the game to just draw a couple cards is nice. For helping like your mana fixing and ramp a little. So yeah, I'll just slam in a Locket. I do like the white-blue card in that pack, the 5 mana 2/5 Vigilance that can't be blocked. That is a really good finisher for controlling blue-white decks, because it blocks well and just constantly chips away at your opponent. But we're in like green-white-black here, so if I start taking blue cards, I'm going to have to cut green, or I'm going to have to cut white, or I'm going to have to cut blue. Very unlikely to be able to go 4 colors well here. Although a Simic Guildgate would help, so might as well. I don't like the Gateway Plaza too much, but it is fine. Well, Ill-Gotten Inheritance here, I suppose. This helps trigger Spectacle, because it deals the damage to our opponent during our upkeep. It wins the long game by just sitting there draining our opponent, and it wins the short game by sacrificing it and dealing forward to our opponent. So Ill-Gotten Inheritance is a pretty fine card. Definitely an irritating card to play against, for sure. Alright, I like Rakdos Trumpeter. Without the red mana, it's not going to be great, but still a 2 mana 1/3 Menace is not terrible. Really helps trigger Spectacle again for our Blade Jugglers to come out on turn 3. So with red, I think the Rakdos Trumpeter is quite good. Without it, it's just fine. Okay, so final pack. We do see a playable rare for us, although let me take a look at the commons. There is Spark Harvest, which is great, but I think, again, we have a lot of good removal we picked up in the first pack. I think I'm going to go with Storev here still. 4 mana for a 5/4 trample. That is above the curve already, and it's returning creatures or planeswalkers from your graveyard that didn't die this turn. So Storev, really nice. It doesn't help you like make an Alpha Strike and then have some of your creatures die and get back whatever just died, but it does get back stuff that's been in your graveyard earlier in the game. So yeah, 5/4 trample that also draws some cards potentially. Pretty great. Take that Storev there. Alright, and another great just like 2 mana creature here, Eternal Taskmaster. 2 mana for a 2/3, already above the curve, and it also can bring some creatures back from the grave. Nissa, alright. Nissa is an excellent bomb. I guess Nissa's not Not as scary in draft as in standard and historic, because you're not getting too much from the doubling up the mana. But Nissa's still 5 mana to just start making all your lands become 3/3s. Right, put 3 +1/+1 counters on a non-creature land you control, untap it. Yeah, just get a 3/3 every turn as long as she's out. And she's going to be 6 loyalty after you plus her once. So yeah, she's pretty good. If she wasn't in here, Band Together is a fine removal spell, but Nissa seems good to me. At least good enough. I do really like Tidebearer Giant. 6 mana for a 4/5 that also draws you a card. Like, that's big enough to close out the game, plus it's just good value drawing you a card when you play it. Yeah, I do have a lot at 3 mana, so I think that's more exciting than Vraska's Finisher to me. Don't have a ton at 2 mana, so we could consider Pollenbright Druid, taking that more highly. But I do have 4 creatures at 2 mana, so like I think I have enough for this deck. So I'm going to take a big old giant, a literal giant. This pack's not super good. I think I'll just grab another late game card, I suppose. Big old Thundering Ceratok here. Okay. Starting to get just some filler stuff at the end, but we already have more than enough cards to make a whole deck. Probably cutting these lockets. Just taking Arlen's Wolf here, I guess. Cruel Celebrant. Yeah, probably not that great. We're not really an Aristocrats deck with a lot of tokens or anything to die. Just take a good creature at face value. Ooh, I do like a Leyline Prowler. 3 mana for a 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinker. Pretty good. It also adds a mana of any color, so if we're stuck on our white mana, this helps with that. And our white is definitely our splash, so yeah, there we go. We can actually even just move back into straight Golgari here. Our only white cards being Consume and Luminous Bonds. I guess we could just be Golgari. Well, that's pretty cool. All right, Band Together. How much removal do we have without the white? Deadweight. Cry. Price of Fame. Deadly Visit. Kind of am still looking for removal a little bit, so I'll take a Band Together here over a Pollenbright Druid. Could still use the 5th 2-drop, but it's just a very unexciting card to me. Also not very excited by Teo or Charmed Stray.
So glad to meet you.
So Blade Jugglers are essentially 3 mana if we hit somebody with a 2-drop. Everything else on our curve is pretty much at the right spot. Status Statue's 4 mana. Aid the Fallen. Now that we have a Nissa, 2 mana, return a creature from our grave to hand, and maybe return a Nissa from our grave to our hand as well. Anytime we do that, we'll be really happy. Probably going to end up cutting this, but I'm definitely going to end up cutting Rising Populace, because we're trying to go straight Golgari now. We have pretty much enough cards to do it. These are all quite mediocre. Alright, well, I'll take Prismite. That's pretty much just as filler of a 2-drop as the Blossoming thing, and now we have our 5 2-mana creatures to moderately consistently hit Spectacle. Could maybe even throw a Banehound in to help with Spectacle as well. But again, the backup plan on the Blade Jugglers of just casting them for 5 mana is not that bad, so we don't have to be that consistent. Prefer to have as many... Ooh, yeah, I was going to say I'd prefer to have as many 3 toughness or better creatures as possible for Cry of the Carnarium to be one-sided the vast majority of the time. So any 2 mana and 3 mana creatures that have 3 toughness are going to look really exciting in here. And the fact that we have 2 3 toughness creatures at 2 mana, that's really cool. And the other 2 mana creatures we have are pretty expendable, so that's pretty alright. Our 3 mana creatures really are going to be way too flimsy, though. We do have a lot that dies to Cry of the Carnarium, but I'm still going to keep it in here, because you always just not cast it whenever it's going to help your opponent more than it helps you. Cut a little bit of removal here. I think we have a lot. Cut the Aid the Fallen. So we have Deadweight, Statue, Band Together, Cry of the Carnarium, Grotesque Demise, Price of Fame, and Deadly Visit as removal. Feels more than sufficient to me. Start cutting our most mediocre creatures now. Yeah, we have 20 in here. Got a lot going on at 5 mana, although a lot going on at 3 mana as well. I don't really like any of our 5 drops, but I like the high toughness ones better than the low toughness, even though this has hexproof. I guess it really depends on the matchup. If we're playing against some Clear the Mind style control deck, then Ward Scale Crocodile is going to be great. If we're playing against just your standard creature heavy deck, it's going to be terrible in comparison to just like a 4/5, because that just attacks in better against so many other power toughnesses. I feel like more decks, a 4/5 is going to be better than the 5/3. And I like the Mammoth Spider the best out of all of them because it's just the best blocker. Sturdiest card with reach added. Don't love Brush Strider. I do like Whisper Agent, even though it's a little difficult to cast, but that's a double black there. Don't love Prismite. And then 3 more cards to cut. This is really an ill-gotten inheritance deck. Sometimes ill-gotten inheritance can get you killed. Like, sometimes it's going to sit there and just slowly win the game, but there's other times where the fact that it doesn't impact the board at all it does is impact life totals, can really cost you. Like, if your opponent is on a just aggressive start with a good curve and you just drop ill-gotten inheritance, like, spending 4 mana to effectively just not change the board state at all can be a big deal, whereas like in those games, just like a 3 mana 3/2 can often just have been better than the ill-gotten inheritance. But that's just talking about the bad situations with the card. There are good situations with the card too, where it's going to be way better than like a 3 mana 3/2. So, I don't know. Get rid of this Recluse, I think. Two more cards to cut still. I think I want to cut another 3 mana card here. Maybe the Veiled Shade? I don't know. I like its flexibility being a fine draw late game in comparison to the other 3 mana cards we have. Although most of them, I mean, the Blade Jugglers and Generous Strays are still fine draws late game because they just draw into something else. The Prowler's not bad. I'm having a really hard time cutting the last card or two, but I always am. I do really like Arlen's Wolf's ability. I'm gonna cut the Ill-Gotten Inheritance. Maybe the Stray, because we have 2 Jugglers, which are just like a bigger Stray. Although Stray's like great with Storev and Taskmaster. And the Jugglers are all good with that too. We have Tidebearer Giant, which is like a really big Generous Stray. Yeah, we can cut a Generous Stray here. Just have bigger creatures that draw when they enter. Alright, I think this is going to be the deck here. Oh, we still have an Orzhov Guildgate. Do not need that anymore, so we'll cut that out. But then an 8/8 split, see if that looks alright to us. We've got 18 black, 9 green. Maybe not an 8/8 split. Oh yeah, a lot of black, especially early on. We do need double green for Nissa, but that's it. Yeah, get rid of a forest for a swamp here. That does look good to me. Double black on Cry of the Carnary might be a little difficult, but we've got 10 black sources. I don't really want to whittle down to 7 green sources. I still want like 8 here for Nissa. Seems fine. Also, if we don't have the second black, Leyline Prowler could help with it. Sometimes. Alright, well, here we are in Golgari again. That is going to be 2 just straight up Golgari decks drafted so far. One deck that I drafted was Golgari and then ended up being a bunch of other colors, so we've just ended up in Golgari a lot in these mixer drafts. Which is kind of wild. That is not what I planned for at all. But if that's where we're going to be, that's where we're going to be. That's where it's at here. So excited to head into round 1 here. I think this is just a very good basic level draft deck. Pretty standard stuff. Just a mid-range little Golgari beat-em-up deck. Tons of good removal. Nice Planeswalker bomb. Some good creatures. 1 creature bomb, the Storev. Alright, and nice little hand here. This is just some classic Ravnica action. Just take your guild, or pick your guild and stick to it. Have just some great stuff in there. I am a little distracted today. I got a new prescription of glasses for the first time in almost a decade. So I keep looking over to my phone waiting for it to arrive because they are arriving in the mail today. I'm pretty pumped because it has been made massively clear to me recently that I cannot see until I get the new prescription. Alright, Golgari mirror match this game. Here we go. Our opponent is on green and black. They played a forest and a swamp, but that's all that's happened so far. We've got our turn 2 Burglar Rat. Let's just get into this game. Opponent is being forced to choose something to discard now. And then we'll see what they've got. If you couldn't tell, it is the start of a new season here, so I am back down to gold. I have been knocked down with the new season beginning. Alright, so they discarded their Vraska's Finisher, which was a 3-mana 3-2, but that's because they wanted to play a mana Geode this turn. Scry 1, and this can add a mana of any color. So no creature for them this turn means we get to slam down a turn 3 Blade Juggler where it is at its best. Spectacle from hitting them for 1 with Burglar Rat, and now we get a 3-2 and draw a card this turn, and we draw another Blade Juggler. We're going to have a pretty great time this game if we can get in for damage again this turn. Just run out some Blade Jugglers. Rakdos Roustabout from our opponent, a 3-2. Whenever it becomes blocked, it deals 1 to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So in order to still cast another Blade Juggler this turn, I am going to chump attack with my Burglar Rat. It's never going to get a good attacker block in anyway. This way just confirms I get Spectacle this turn no matter what happens. If I just attacked with Blade Juggler, pretty sure my opponent would just take the trade 3-2 for 3-2. Ooh, or not. No blocks at all. Alright. I was going to say, attacking like this, if they weren't planning on trading with Blade Juggler, I'd expect them to just block the Burglar Rat, but if they don't block at all, then that attack just works out really well for me. Suppose, yeah, 4 mana up from the green-black deck. You gotta fear a giant growth in this format. There's a lot of green combat tricks available. Alright, so they are green, black, and red. They have cast 2 red spells off that mana Geode. This time a Fireblade Artist, a 2-2 haste. At the beginning of their upkeep, they may sacrifice a creature to deal 2 damage to us. But of course, then that creature will be gone forever. So we're taking 5 here down to 13. We crack back for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're winning this race right now. I think I take it all. Leave our Blade Juggler around to just attack back at them. We have multiple removal spells to cast on whatever they cast here if they're trying to cast something to block with. Nope, they're just going to cast their own Grotesque Demise. Alright, so we have We can play a 5/4 trample. We can kill one of their creatures. Or, those are kind of the two options. If I'm playing a creature here, I'm going to play a 5/4 trample. Little scared with Fireblade Artist's ability. Like, if we just play our 5/4 and they blow it up, we take 5, go down to 8. I guess we're safe enough here. Let's cast Storev and just attack in. Because, yeah, like, they're not going to use the ability here. They just have a 3/2 and a 2/2 to sacrifice. The ability doesn't trigger in their end step. It triggers in their upkeep. So it's not like they can blow up Storev, hit us for 5, and then sacrifice both creatures to hit us for 4 more or anything like that. So they do have removal for Storev, so they do hit us for 5 on the attack. We're down to 8. But now I do have Deadly Visit mana, so I can kill one of their creatures and set up my next draw. Down at 8 life is where Fireblade Artist is starting to get really threatening. We have so many cards in our hand. We have the value game 1 here. So let's focus in on just survival, which I think would be... We kind of just let ourselves get 2 for 1 a little bit here. Or not 2 for 1, but... Now let's play a little slowly here. Not playing as aggressively as we could, but now we just hit for 1, and then we'll trade Blade Juggler into the Roustabout at this point, just to play it really safe. Because, like, they have 3 cards left in their hand. We have 2 removal spells and some massive creatures. So we're very likely, if we can just survive and not take 8 more damage here, to just have a way better board state and close this game out in the long run. I think this game I could have used some better assessment of who was the beatdown here. Just with the double Blade Juggler coming down and just all the cards I had left in my hand, I probably should have made a trade earlier and made some more blocks earlier, because being down at 7, like, one of the few ways I think I could lose this game now is if they just draw, like, some burn spells or something. Like, if we were just trading all of our creatures 1 for 1 from the start of this game and nobody was hitting each other, we would handily be winning, because our creatures were drawing us cards as we were playing them. But I did not choose to do that. I still tried to be the aggressor. I was feeling feisty today, and may not have been the right play. So I think we're safe to just plop down a couple creatures here. Veiled Shade to trade for the Acrobat on board. And then, of course, Whisper Agent to surprise trade with it with Flash. If I had 1 more mana, I'd feel really safe about this, because then I could also have the removal spell held up. Without the removal spell held up, I'm a little bit scared of the red cards, but if they just have like 1 removal spell here, we're still quite safe. They blow up the Shade, and then we block with a Whisper Agent instead. Just flash it in. Alright, so they do kill the Shade. We can't stop that. We don't have enough pluses to save it from a -5/-5, so just let it happen and try to trade Whisper Agent into the Acrobat here. We hit Cry of the Carnarium. Actually don't want that here, because we have no idea how big their next creature is going to be. So if we have a -2/-2 spell sitting in our hand when they cast like just nothing but 4/4s for the rest of the game, that's going to be a problem. Alright, so 1 card in their hand, empty board on their field. We have a 1/1 and a 4/5 now. This is where we start bringing it back. 4/5 and a 1/1, 2 removal spells in hand, feeling nice and safe. Just hit them for a couple turns and close it out. They are down to 4 now. We've also drawn an Orzhov Enforcer, 1/2 Death Toucher that spits out a flyer when it dies. And there's the concession from our opponent. So pretty good game overall. Our deck really just showing off its power there. I don't think we played optimally, though. I think I should have played more... I think I should have started trading earlier. We went a little bit risky with our life total, although I guess there's always that saying of life total is a resource as well, but since we did end up just trading our creatures into theirs anyway, had we done it earlier in the game, we'd be at a much higher life total. But I suppose so would our opponent. Alright, well, I really want to keep this hand, but I probably shouldn't. We straight up need to draw at least one land, and we'd very much like to draw specifically a forest or a Golgari Guildgate. It's pretty risky. Our opponent is on the play, so we will be on the draw, which is helpful for mulligans. If our opponent's aggressive, like, this hand's going to be great. Like, we just Cry of the Carnarium and wipe the board. But we have, like, no way to cast this Blade Juggler for a century unless we hit the green mana. So, like, if we're not, like, this hand is so interactive. It's like, if we're against aggro, bam, we're good. Dead weight, Cry of the Carnarium, Deadly Visit later in the game. But if not, we're just dirtling around doing literally nothing. All of our cards that we can actually cast are interactive. Blade Juggler takes 5 mana. This is green. I'm going to mulligan it. I was tempted. And this is just as bad, unfortunately. Still just double black here. No green source. Well, I'm not going to mulligan down to 5, so we'll keep this one. Very similar hand, though. Plays out pretty much the same, so I guess we'll see how it pans out. Get rid of our 5 mana card. I guess this time we have a Storev, so we'll be playing a creature a little sooner. Instead of waiting till turn 5, we could have a turn 4 Storev instead of turn 5 Blade Juggler. And we do have an Orzhov Enforcer on turn 2 instead of a Deadweight as our cheap card in hand. So a little Death Toucher that also replaces itself with a 1/1 flyer when it dies. See how the game plays out, but pretty much back at square one with the 6-card hand. Double red from our opponent into Ornery Goblin. So, likely pretty aggressive deck here. I don't know if I'm going to hit another land. Like, I don't know when I'm going to hit another land, so I feel like I should play Orzhov Enforcer, even though it plays poorly into our Cry of the Carnarium. Just because we can't guarantee that we get to just cast Cry of the Carnarium next turn. And if we get to cast a Cry of the Carnarium and kill 2 or 3 of their creatures, then we're going to be in a good position regardless of if we have an Orzhov Enforcer just chilling in our hand. So we'll get this out here and be a little safer against their early aggro. Alright, never mind. Thrash and Threat will just completely nullify my Enforcer, because Ornery Goblin does a damage to a creature whenever it becomes blocked. So this 1/1 flyer cannot block and trade into the Ornery Goblin, but it can attack them. Alright, so we do have Cry of the Carnarium mana now. So I could just accept the trade, Cry of the Carnarium 1-for-1, kill the Goblin. So they used Thrash to kill my Enforcer, I used Cry to kill the Goblin, but it's only hitting for 2 a turn. I would like to just sandbag it and hope that they play like at least one more creature. Alright, well, both players probably stuck off a color of mana here, but we do hit the green source. Alright. So now I have Statue available, Price of Fame available, but I am just going to cast Storev here. If they don't have removal for Storev immediately, Storev brings back Enforcer to our hand. We hit the 5th mana too, so both players stuck on mana, but we are the luckier player today, I guess. Alright, Storev hits, which means we get Enforcer back. Just replay it here. Well, I was scared at the start of that game, but unfortunately for our opponent, it didn't really end up being a game. I'm assuming our opponent was in a very similar position to us in terms of their first hand, whether to keep it or mulligan. I believe they did keep their first hand, so just did not end up getting that second color, whereas we did. We are just the luckier player that game, as simple as that round. Alright, so I think we're in round 3 now. 2-0. I think it was real fast just because of how quick that last game went. And this is a great hand. Deadweight, Burglar Rat, and Orzhov Enforcer, all playable early game plays. And then the late game Tidebearer Giant. Always an excellent card. Playing against a blue-red. Is it? It is. I'm going to Rat them or Enforcer first. I feel like Enforcer's slightly more likely to get in for damage and trigger our Blade Juggler next turn, so I'll run down the Enforcer. Like, if I play Burglar Rat and then they play a 3-2 this turn, like, Rat's just not getting in. Or if I play Rat and then they kill it. So here I play Enforcer, they kill Enforcer, and I still get a 1-1 back, so I still get to cast Blade Juggler. And now I've drawn my second Blade Juggler, so we just have another game where we just curve out with double Blade Juggler. Those games are always incredible. Because 3 mana for a 3-2 that draws a card when you play it is just such an absurd deal. Just curving out with 3-2s and keeping your later game plays all fueled. Making sure you have stuff to cast every turn from that point on. Card is just absolutely excellent. Alright, we'll see if they have 2 removal spells here. If they don't, we will be casting another Juggler. They have 1 damage prevention spell, but we do still deal at least 1 point of damage there and get another Blade Juggler out. Alright. Tin Street Dodger, a little 1-1 haste. Can make it so it can't be blocked except by stuff with Defender. Really just not going to do anything to that. Just let it do its thing, I guess. I guess we could deadweight it here, but I have a 5 mana creature to cast, so I'm not going to deadweight it if I don't have to. I'm just going to go to combat and see what happens. If they do some kind of absolutely absurd combat trick, we can always statue to kill that Dodger if it's like going to kill our whole board or something, but if it's just going to chump block, then whatever. Alright, so Mammoth Spider it is here. Mammoth Spider resolves. And Invading Manticore is the play turn 6. A 4-5 and a 2-2 zombie army have hit the board for our opponent. If we can kill the 4-5, then we can attack with everything. And I have enough mana to kill the 4-5 and the 2-2, and then absolutely everything gets through, instead of having a 3-2 trade for the 2-2, so I'm going to go for that. Hit for 10 here, put them down to 4. We could play the Tidebearer Giant, but that's a lot slower of a play. And yep, just 1 blocker this turn means dead on board for our opponent. So more than lethal there, 3-0 now for the goal garbage. And we'll rank up into gold tier 2 here. Pretty cool. So I don't usually try to hit top 1200 Mythic every month, and the reason is because the vast majority of the invitational tournaments they invite you to for hitting top 1200 Mythic are like historic or standard, and I just never play those formats. So I'm just going to chill this season, just hang out, gold, platinum, diamond. It was on my mind because they had the most recent invitational tournament a couple days ago, and I was like, well, I qualified for it, so I might as well play it, but it was historic, so I got absolutely blasted because I just don't know the decks or the format. Alright, so our first hand was unkeepable. Double black with barely anything castable. This hand is... I mean, it's better than the first hand, but I am scared. I think, again, we just get rid of the most expensive card, the 6 mana. Even though it's like the best card. One of the best cards in the hand. Ceratok's just going to happen much sooner. Alright. We really need to hit some good draws for this hand, because Blade Juggler is not going to spectacle this game, so... Not been drawing particularly well in terms of our opening hands these past couple games, but luckily we have been drawing out of them somewhat efficiently. So red, black from our opponent with a Rakdos Guildgate. They also have a Gateway Plaza that adds for a mana of any color. All right, another mountain here. It's probably not too heavily multicolored. Like red, black, blue, or red, black, green, red, black, white. Who knows? Alright, we're drawing a ton of just non-land stuff now, so it's going to be a little while before we're casting anything, but looks like the same from our opponent. Nothing here with 4 lands untapped. Alright, well, they were going to have to discard a card because their hand's like nothing but removal, so they're like, well, I'm going to have to discard a card in the end step anyway. Might as well. Chandra's Pyrohelix to deal 2 damage to my face. So like, alright, I'll take it. For the same reason, we're just going to slam down a Burglar Rat. If we don't cast this, we'll just have to discard a card. Alright, another Pyrohelix. Kill the rat and deal 1 to me. But they will still have to discard from the Burglar Rat. So they discard a blue card, Callous Dismissal. Hand of just nothing but spells here. Notion Rain from our opponent. They are blue, black, and red. Probably some Grixis control monstrosity based on what we're seeing in their graveyard. Double Pyrohelix and a Dismissal. 2 burn spells and a bounce spell. And they've milled an Inescapable Blaze, 6 damage to any target there. Alright, well, here's a Leyline Prowler that I think is highly unlikely to stay on the board, but if it does, that can give us the mana we need to cast our other cards. Of course, they do have Chillbringer here that doesn't kill it, but it taps it down, so I can't tap it for mana this turn, but I did hit my 4th land now. So I do get to cast something here. Would I rather kill Chillbringer immediately or play a big old 5/4 Storev? Honestly, the odds of them having removal are so just massively high that I might as well just play the creatures later and stop every bit of damage I can from this Chillbringer and just kill it right now. And I'd actually... This is a tough choice. Grotesque Demise can only kill stuff with power 3 or less, so there's a good reason to use that, because Price of Fame can kill anything, but Price of Fame lets us surveil and set up our next draws and get to that 5th land sooner. I think I'm still just going to cast Grotesque Demise, because if our Leyline Prowler untaps, we'll still have 5 mana. If they kill our Leyline Prowler, we still have multiple plays. We can play Storev next turn, and then the turn after that play Rhizome Lurcher. That's like, if we don't draw another land the next 2 turns, we still have plays lined up. So, just going to Grotesque Demise there and hold on to Price of Fame. So I'm going to cast Storev first. There's an argument for playing Lurcher first, because then if they have another removal spell, Lurcher draws it out. But honestly, Lurcher's like almost as good, and Lurcher gets better the more creatures have died. And they probably just have removal for both, but we'll see here. So they did have removal for Storev. We'll see if they have removal for Lurcher. Lurcher is a 5/5 now. We had 3 creatures in our graveyard. Captive Audience. That card just kills us, right? That's just like the 7 mana you lose? Yep. Well, I don't have any enchantment removal, and I really need it. So either my opponent gets 5 2/2s, I discard my whole hand, or my life total becomes 4. All 3 of these things just kill me. If I discard my hand, I have no plays, and I have nothing to do. If I give them 5 2/2s, they kill me with those quickly. If I make my life total 4, they likely have more Chandra's Pyrohelix type cards, and I also die immediately. They're at 18 here. If they're out of removal, we could put our life to 4, hit them with Lurcher, play just our next biggest creature, and just try to race for our life. The zombies don't even come to play tapped, they come in untapped. Alright, we're gonna go to 4, I guess. Can only play 1 creature here, so we just play the 4/5 trample, I guess. Now there's no way here. Unless we top deck Cry of the Carnarium, then we just give them 5 zombies and kill them all. But yeah, they just have nothing but removal still. Oh my god. Cry of the Carnarium 1 time. I think it's safer to discard our hand now, Because like if I give them 2 zombies and then I don't top deck Cry the Canarium, I die right now. If I discard my hand and then I don't top deck Cry the Canarium, I still have 1 more turn to draw it. Like then I probably just lose to these 2 cards, but I don't know. This was just a rough one. Our opponent's deck is very good, and we stumbled on mana more than long enough for them to just set up the control to kill us with Captive Audience. Oh my god, Statue can destroy the Captive Audience. Alright, well we did draw into an answer for it. Cry of the Canarium was not our only answer. Status Statue off the top was another answer, and I didn't even realize until now. But now we just die to whatever's in their hand, because we had to discard like 6 cards. Just draw both answers. We had Cry the Canarium and Statue. Would have killed it either way. Alright, well, that kills us. 4 damage to the face. Well, that was a rough game there. I do think that was a matchup. That wasn't an unwinnable game. Our opponent's deck is quite good, but if we didn't stumble on mana at all, like if we just curve out well against that kind of deck, we could still just beat them before Captive Audience completely goes off. But we had a really slow start that one. So that was just not going to work out for us there. Alright, on the play here, only 2 mana. I think there's another mulligan for us. I do not think our mana base is this bad. We have 17 lands in here. I don't think our curve is that high, but it is really not rewarding us with these hands lately. So scry to 2. Or scry 2 cards away. Keep Whisper Agent and Taskmaster. We have our turn 2 and turn 3 play. Hopefully draw the big 5 mana plus cards later here, thanks to surveilling to them with Whisper Agent, stuff like that. Opponent starts with our Boreal Grazer, plays another Forest. And we will start with Eternal Taskmaster. Green and red, and a Simic Locket is cast, so green, red, and blue. And another Arboreal Grazer, alright. Well, that Grazer was just a 0-3 because they only had the 3 lands in hand, so that feels pretty good. It's always good when one of your opponent's cards is just like a 0-3 or something. You're like, okay, I don't have to worry about that one. That thing will not hit me. It's just going to sit there and block, just hang out. Just grazing, you know. Well, Burglar Rat, not a terrible draw, but not great. Make them discard something here. We know they don't have lands in hand, so something real. Alright, well, our 1-1 traded up into the 2-2, I guess. So they're green, red, blue, and white. They could just be a 5-color pile over there. Our Whisper Agent gets to get in by being 3 power against these 3 toughness creatures. Alright, Savage Smash kills the Whisper Agent. But our Eternal Taskmaster is going to pick it right back up because these Grazers cannot kill the Taskmaster anyway. So Taskmaster actually putting in some fine work here. We don't get to recast the Agent immediately. We don't have enough mana, but now we have a play for next turn. And I'm actually going to Surveil before I draw a card here. Cast Whisper Agent in our upkeep. So if it's another land, we don't draw into it. And it is another land, so now we don't draw that. Orzhov Enforcer is the draw, which is a cheap enough card to cast here. If we're scared of a Wrath effect, we could play around it and not play this, but I don't think we are. Just green-red here. The only Wrath I could think of would be like Gates Ablaze. And they would need a lot more gates than they have right now to blow up our stuff. That does damage equal to the number of gates they have, which is currently 0, so just not going to worry about that. I'm going to play my 6th land here. I want to have all the Taskmaster mana available, and we do have a 6 mana card in the deck, but could hold on to some lands from this point on if I want to bluff some stuff. Send in the squad. They have no power on their board, so just get in max damage here, get in for 4. The Agent and the Enforcer can't be blocked without them losing a creature. The Arlen's Wolf we just drew can't be blocked, period, because those are too small. However, they do have the Selesnya Guildgate out now. They have hit the white mana, which means I'm sure there are plenty of cards in their hand that are now castable. They have 4 out of 5 colors in the game. Trusted Pegasus is the play, a 2/2 flyer that gives another creature flying whenever it attacks. Not really important here, we're at 20 life. That's mainly just going to be a good blocker here. And they do have Domri's Ambush, puts a +1/+1 counter on it, and has it shoot one of our cards. So it's a 3/3 now. So it will trade for any of these 3 cards. And so they don't block at all, go down to 6. All right, play a menacing little trumpeter here. Defkarn Dissident is the play this turn, a 2/2 that for 5 mana gets +2/+2 until end of turn, so it can be a 4/4 on block, so that shuts off our 3/2s from attacking in well, and they do have the 5 mana up to buff it. Well, the Death Toucher it is. If they block with the 2/2, then the 3/2s can get in, and if they block with the Flyer, then the 1/1 flying token that the Enforcer gives us can get in. So we're happy with either trade. Band together, so another removal spell in hand. That means no cards left in their hand, so a top deck war, but we're at 20 and they're at 6. They have good blockers in this board state, but it is going to come down to whoever draws better. They have a Simic Locket on board, though, that they can sacrifice to draw 2 cards, so I actually think they're probably at the advantage here, especially after a Swirlform hybrid. That is a 6/6, essentially. Although there's statue to kill it. Could also kill the Dissident with our statue, but then they're just going to have a 6/6 on the ground once they adapt this hybrid. We just can't let them have a 6/6. I think we have to kill the hybrid. I don't even think we can afford to kill the Pegasus with this. I guess this gives +1/+1 Death Touch, so could like do a little tricky thing. But that would still accomplish the same thing as just destroying something straight up. Yeah, no, I think we just shoot down the hybrid and pass the turn. I mean, we can attack with Trumpeter, and then I guess if they block with 2 of their good creatures, it would be better to give that Death Touch than to kill the hybrid. So I guess we'll do that. Attack with the Trumpeter. That's it. Because it has Menace. So it's probably better to kill the Dissident and the Pegasus than it is to kill just the hybrid. All right, this is fine. I guess we do just lose the Trumpeter here if they buff the Dissident. All right, so I'm either killing Dissident and Grazer, or I'm killing just a hybrid. Let's just kill the hybrid. Did not fully think through the Trumpeter attack. I kind of forgot about Dissident's effect again. Because it's like, yeah, they can just block with an 0/3 and the 2/2 and then just buff that one. They don't have to block with the 2/2 and the 3/3 to kill it. Steeple Creeper. 4/2 has been drawn off of the Simic Locket. They can give it flying for blue mana, but they do not have the blue mana. Alright, well, now that I have a Veiled Shade, I'm going to play the mana to activate it as many times as possible. But the top deck war continues. That's not that bad. A 7/5 hexproof, it's scary, but our Veiled Shade can kill it by itself. We just have to pump it 3 times. So it's still a 1-for-1 trade when it attacks in. If they attack with that and the Pegasus, actually, because they have the Pegasus, that is pretty scary. Now we need to draw removal for the Pegasus. All right, well, we drew removal for the Pegasus. Yep, just exile the Pegasus here, and then we get to start hitting for 1 damage a turn with our flyer. They're on a 6-turn clock. Another Sore Form hybrid. All right, that's pretty spicy. Another 6/6. We can only buff the Shade twice, so we can only make it a 4/4 here. Although we can still have it trade by blocking with a Burglar Rat and the Shade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 mana, so we can buff Shade 3 times. We can make it a 5/5. We are miles away from making it big enough to survive blocking the Elemental, or the Hybrid, even. So I think we might as well trade both here, because the other option is to either take 7 or chump block with Burglar Rat. If I want to chump block with Burglar Rat, then I might as well just double block here, because I'm just going to trade Shade for it next turn anyway. So the only real options are take this trade now, or take the damage and then just trade Shade next turn. And I think I just take this trade now. Alright, so that is not ideal. We hit them down to 4 in the sky. Then we can double block to kill the hybrid. But then after that attack, they start getting in. Oh my god, the Grazers have reach. The 0/3 dorks have reach. We're actually just losing right now. Okay, so we really need to draw something to get out again. Alright, well, now they're 6/6 has trample, and they have a 7/7 trample. That is disastrous. Double block to trade, or hopefully draw into 1 removal spell to trade 1 for 1. They're at 5 life. How on earth do we get out of this one? I think we just don't. These creatures are just too juicy. Yeah, we don't have like an actual Wrath. We only have Cry of the Carnarium, which kills small things. Triple block the Troll, double block the Hybrid, or go to 1. If we Cry the Canarium, we're killing all our own stuff too. Alright, at this point I don't think it matters. I don't think there's anything we can draw to win. I'll just send a message, kill the big old Guardian thing. And that is going to be game. Block 1 creature, takes 6. 3 and 2, I believe, at this point. We'll take a second look here. Second peek. 3 and 2 it is. I think this deck is better than that. So hopefully I can play a little better in these final rounds, maybe draw a little better, and rally back into maybe a 5-6 win, where I would hope I can bring this deck to. But you can never guarantee anything here. So we are heading into round 6. 3 and 2. No matter what happens, at least an average run for this deck. Not the end of the world. But ideally, we can do better than that here. This is an awkward hand, very interactive. We're not casting our Blade Jugglers till quite late here. But we do have some excellent cards, some card draw coming up. Turn 4 from our opponent. They're on green, red with a Gateway Plaza out for a mana of any color. Some Gruul beats. Amplifier is the play. Well, I mean, that's not that scary, but I should kill it anyway. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card until your next turn. Its base power is twice that card's power. Its toughness is twice that card's toughness. So let's just get rid of it. Because you never know, like... I guess the smallest it's going to be is attacking as like a 4-2 whenever it hits a Kron Strangler, and sometimes it could attack for way more. So, we will just get rid of that thing. And a 6-5, turn 5. We have Nissa, turn 5. If we play Nissa, we just have a 3-3 land to block with. We'd have to chump block if they attack Nissa. Does not sound good to me. Let's just cast our Blade Juggler here. And just a land for us. So actually now, next turn, we can cast Nissa, make a land a 3-3, and band together our land and our Juggler to kill their 6-5. Clan Guild Mage so they can shut off a blocker, and Kronch Wrangler, which can't attack alone, but it can attack alongside a Guild Mage. Alright, so we cast Nissa.
I will protect the virtue of this world.
Untap our forest, now we can cast Band Together. If we cast Band Together, we're tapping our forest to do it, so I want to wait until they declare any attacks or declare where they want to shut off a blocker. So we pass the turn here, unless we want to play around a pump spell. I think it's better to hold blockers up than to play around a pump spell here, because if I just like tap out here, Troll's gone, but we only have a 3-2 to block with. So they just make one of their lands a 4-4, and now they're attacking with a 4-4 and a 4-3. We trade with the 4-3, take 4. I guess that's not that bad. It really depends what they draw off the top. In Gruul, the main mechanic is Riot, which means every creature with Riot in their deck could have haste. It gets haste or a +1/+1 counter. So I could be playing wrong here. We might get wrecked by a pump spell. But this plays better against like Riot creatures and scary stuff like that. Direct Current. Well, we have to do it right now then, which means all of their stuff gets in for max damage. Because if we wait till this resolves, we don't have enough power to band together. Alright, well, that's pretty bad for us. That does the same thing had we cast Band Together during our turn or now, which is shut off all of our blockers. Alright, so they're just going to nuke Nissa.
Forgive me.
Oh, the land has Vigilance. Totally forgot about that. Should have dealt a couple damage to them this turn. Definitely not last turn, though. Because I think they had... Yeah, the Wrangler, the Crunch thing was untapped. Savage Smash on the forest. Alright. Well... It's going to be too little too late for us here. Yep, Trumpeter not going to get there. 3 and 3 for this Skull Garbage deck. I gave it a really rude name, but I didn't think it was that bad. I think it was a fine, solid deck here. But you can't always win them all. And 3 and 3 is still an average run. So that is going to end today's draft. As always, if you're enjoying these videos and you want to see more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in the notification feeds. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Stick around on the channel because I will be back again very soon for some more Magic Arena.